Hi everyone. I'm so glad that you are here to join us today. Where are my little friends at? There you are. Hi guys. What have you guys been up to today?
Well, we've just been hanging out and talking, and I've been telling him about a really weird dream I had last night.
You had a weird dream last night. What made it so weird?
Well, everything was just really weird, and the world seemed different, and I can't really describe it. But she keeps talking about it all day.
Why do you keep talking about it all day?
I don't know. It just can't get out of my mind.
Yeah? Why can't you get it out of your mind?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a story in the Bible about somebody who had a dream.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What story is that?
Well, in this story of the Bible, it's about King Nebuchadnezzar. And he had a dream, and it actually ended up coming true.
Wow.
Yeah, so in this dream, he dreamed about a statue that was made of metals, and the metal statue actually represented something from the future.
That's really cool.
I think so. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about that.
Well, as we begin to prepare to hear about our story and the things about that, let's sing a few songs. And our first song is going to be He's Able. And isn't it cool that God can do anything he wants to for us, if sometimes if we just need to ask him for it. So He's Able, and I believe the words are going to be on the screen for you. And so sing nice and loud, even though I can't hear you. Sing nice and loud for your parents so they can hear you sing as well. Okay. And what has God done for you that he's able to do that no one else can do? Well, our stories this last couple of weeks have been about Daniel. And he has done so much for Daniel. Last week we learned that he kept Daniel healthy when the king wanted to give him food that was not so healthy to eat. And God was able to make him strong and to give him wisdom above everyone else in the kingdom. And so tonight we're going to continue to learn about Daniel, and we're going to sing our theme song right now, Dare to be a Daniel. Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. Okay. And once God is in our lives and is working for us, then we can have peace and joy and love that only He can give. So we're going to sing a little bit about peace like a river. Have you ever watched a river flow slowly down and how peaceful it looks? Now, sometimes it can be rough, but it can also be very peaceful and can be very calming to watch. So with God in our lives, we can have peace like a river. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got peace like a river, I've got love like an ocean, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. Okay, sorry about the words. I skipped a line when I was reading them, so. Okay, and as we go into our last song about prayer, it's a beautiful privilege that we can go to God in prayer. And you're going to hear in the story today how Daniel and his friends went to God in prayer. And they didn't just do it because it was before breakfast or before lunch or before dinner or maybe before bedtime, but they did it because they needed God's help and guidance. So they went to God in prayer and listened to Him, and God gave them a beautiful, beautiful message. So, whisper a prayer. Whisper a prayer in the morning. Whisper a prayer at noon. Whisper a prayer in the evening to keep your heart in tune. God answers prayer in the morning. God answers prayer at noon. God answers prayer in the evening to keep your heart in tune. Jesus will come in the morning. Jesus may come at noon. Jesus may come in the evening. So keep your heart in tune.
Okay, boys and girls, I have a story for you tonight, and it's a good one. This is a true story from a very long time ago about our friend Daniel. Daniel is the one we've been talking about lately. And this story happened soon after he had been taken captive from his hometown, and he had been taken a long ways away by some soldiers to live in the new place, a new town called Babylon. And the king there was a very powerful king, and he was very, very strong. And when Daniel one day was at his house, he heard a very loud boom, 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 boom knocking on his door. And Daniel was a little surprised. He thought, well, who could that be so urgently pounding on my door? And he went to open the door, and he opened it up, and he said, oh, Arioch. Oh, you don't look so friendly, Arioch. You see, Arioch was the king's personal soldier guard, and he was the captain of the guard. And Daniel said, what seems to be the matter, Arioch? And Arioch said, oh, Daniel, I have some horrible news to share with you. You see, the king woke up this morning in a terrible mood. For last night, he had a dream that he cannot remember, but he knew it was important. It seemed important, but now he can't remember it. So early this morning, he called in all the magicians and all the astrologers and all the soothsayers, and he wanted them to first tell him what his dream was, and then he wanted them to tell him what it meant. Well, as you can imagine, the astrologers and all the magicians and all the soothsayers, they were confused. You see, never before had the king asked for them to tell the dream that he had. He would always tell them the dream and then ask for an interpretation, but today was different. And they said, "O king, live forever. Nobody in all the land could first tell you the dream. You tell us the dream, and then we'll be happy to give you the interpretation." You see, they were very good at making up stories according to the king's dreams, but they didn't know what he dreamed last night. Nobody could do that except God in heaven, and they didn't know God. So what happened next? Well, King Nebuchadnezzar became even more grumpy and more mad, and he put on his angry face and he said, you people, you tell me the dream and then the interpretation, or else I'll cut you all up into little bitty pieces and I'll burn down your houses. Oh, king, give us time, please give us time. He said, you have until tomorrow morning to tell me the dream and its interpretation. Well, that time came and went, and the king said, Arioch, go out, slay all those people. None of them could tell me my dream. They're all fakes. So poor Arioch had to carry out the king's wishes. Otherwise, he would have met the same fate. And that's where we pick up our story, knocking on Daniel's door. Daniel asked Arioch what the whole thing was all about, and Arioch told him the whole story. And Daniel said, oh, Arioch, would you please take me to the king before you execute anybody else? Take me to the king. I want to ask for a little bit more time. I believe my God in heaven can reveal the dream to me. So Arioch was in a hard place. He said, very well, Daniel, I'll take you, but it's not going to be easy. The king's in a foul mood. I'm warning you. And when they got to the palace, they came in and the king's face was red and grumpy. And Daniel said, oh, king, live forever. I was not here when you asked all the others for the interpretation of the dream this morning. Please give me some time. Very well, Daniel, you have a very, very short amount of time to tell me the dream and then tell me the interpretation, or you will be executed just like the rest. Okay, well, Daniel went back home and called his friends together and said, please pray with me. Pray that God will give us the interpretation, that nobody has to die on this day. Well, they all got together and they kneeled down on their knees and they bowed their heads and folded their hands and said, oh, Lord God in heaven, the only one that knows the king's dreams, please reveal to us the dream and the interpretation that people's lives will be saved. Oh God, you're the only one and we trust in you. Well, later on, Daniel fell asleep and and God was faithful and true and gave Daniel the same dream that King Nebuchadnezzar had. And not only that, after the dream, God revealed to Daniel the meaning of the dream, which was very special. Now, Daniel awoke from his sleep and he went to Arioch and said, "Oh, Arioch, God has revealed the dream to me and its interpretation. Please take me to the king." So Arioch took Daniel to the king, and the king said, "Oh, Daniel, do you have the dream for me? And do you have its interpretation?" Daniel said, "Oh, king, live forever. No magician, no sorcerer, no astrologer could ever tell you the meaning, the dream, or the meaning of the dream. But there is one God in heaven, the only true God, that reveals dreams and their interpretation. And he has given me that dream and interpretation." So Daniel went on to explain to the king his dream. And that dream was very interesting. It was of a statue with a gold, it looked like a man. This metal statue looked like a man, and it had a gold head and a chest and arms of bronze, or I mean of silver. And then the lower part of bronze, and then legs of iron, and then its feet were made up of iron and clay all mixed together. And then at the end of that dream, this huge rock cut in heaven with no man's hands came hurtling down towards the statue and smashed it all to pieces. The king said, "Yes, Daniel, yes." And now he had a happy face. "Daniel, you told me my dream. That's exactly it. How did you do it?" And Daniel said, "Remember, God revealed this dream to me." "Now, what does it mean, Daniel? What does it mean? I'm so excited." Daniel said, "Oh, king, live forever. The head of gold represents you and your kingdom. And the successive different metals, they represent kingdoms that will come after you. And first Medo-Persia, then Greece, then Rome, then a mixture down at the feet. And at the very end of Earth's history, God will send his son and come and take away all the kingdoms of earth and set up his kingdom forever and ever." And the king said, "Oh, Daniel, you make me so happy this day. I will set you as ruler over all of Babylon and all of its provinces." And Daniel said, "Oh, king, and remember, it's the God in heaven that gives you the dream and the interpretation." And Nebuchadnezzar said, "Oh, Daniel, you are right. There is only one God, and I want to worship him too." And boys and girls, that's the end of my story. Daniel, when he came up against a big problem, where did he go? He went with his friends to God through prayer. He prayed to God in heaven, and God answered their prayers and saved them and saved all the rest of the wise men in Babylon that day. So I want you to remember, if you come up against a big problem that you don't know what to do with, do what Daniel did and first pray to God, and he will give you help. That's the end of my story. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right, boys and girls, we're going to continue on that very special theme tonight. You see right here in front of me 2 candles, and I would like to help us to remember the story we just heard a while ago and a very important part of that story. As you just heard, it is important for us to pray whenever we find ourselves in a difficult situation. Sometimes we forget to pray because we feel so overwhelmed with fear. We feel so scared. There are so many other things in our minds. Maybe we want to trust ourselves. We might have an idea of what we should do. Maybe Daniel could have thought of something else like running away from Babylon or something like that, something he came up with on his own. But he decided that he was going to pray. Now, prayer is just as important for our lives as breathing, right? If we don't have a chance to breathe, after a while, we won't have any opportunity to live. And in the same way, if we stop praying, then we will lose that fire inside of us, kind of like the fire we have here. The fire that's inside of us that keeps going, Do you know what keeps fire burning this way? One of the important things around the fire that keeps it going. It's kind of the same thing that keeps us going when we breathe in. Can you think of it? That's right. It's the oxygen around the fire. It's oxygen that helps this fire to keep going. So if I stop putting oxygen inside of me, I won't be alive after a while. And if this fire stops getting oxygen, it won't be alive after a while. And if we stop praying, the same thing happens. Let's see if what I said is actually so. I'm going to put this glass over one of the candles, and you will notice that the fire will still continue burning for a little bit because there's still a little bit of reserve. Something's still in there, right? But over time, if we don't open up and allow ourselves to have the freedom of that oxygen, if we don't open up ourselves to God, then after a while, we won't have that fire anymore. So let's see what happens if I put this over here. Well, it's still going, isn't it? And the fire continues to burn, but over time it discovers, oh boy, the oxygen's going out in here, and oh no, and there it goes. And there is no more light on the candle, because what happens is the fire needs oxygen, just like we need to keep praying and trusting in God. Now, Daniel was not like this. I think this was like Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar did not have an active communication with God, and so he was not able to understand with any clarity what God wanted him to know. And he needed someone else to tell him, because in praying, we can understand God's messages, and if we don't pray, then we won't understand. So fire gives us light, gives us clarity, and Daniel, because he kept his communication open with God, he was able to come on over to Nebuchadnezzar and say, hey, Nebuchadnezzar, I'm going to go ahead and give you some light on this dream. I'm going to tell you what God told me. And there you have it, my friends. Prayer gives us not only fire, but gives us light to see what God wants us to see. There's a song that says, hide it under a bushel. Nope. I'm going to let it shine. And you can also say that about a glass as well. Hide it under a glass. Nope. I'm going to let this light shine, because the light needs oxygen, and you need prayer in your life as you trust God to help you with every situation you go through. So remember that the next time you have a candle, you always need to feed the candle with oxygen. And the next time you are in a difficult situation, you need to feed your soul with praying to God and allowing God to give you the light and the answer. God bless you, boys and girls. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow, what a cool object lesson that was. Sorry about that, guys. My phone does not want to cooperate. All right. Hello, my friends. What did you guys learn today?
I learned a lot about Daniel and how he interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream. How Nebuchadnezzar had a really weird dream, and Daniel was able to interpret it. I learned about the power of prayer and how Daniel and his friends prayed so that God would help them interpret.
Yeah, isn't that really cool how God can help us understand some things?
Very cool.
Well, what did you guys think about that objects lesson? Wasn't it cool how that fire couldn't keep going without any oxygen?
Yeah, I love that. That was cool to see it slowly go out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything else you guys would like to say?
I don't think so.
All right, Mr. Nick, do you want to come up here and do closing prayer for us, please?
Dear Jesus, thank you for bringing us together through this live stream, and please help everyone to have enjoyed it and to have learned. We love you. Please help us to have a happy Sabbath and a good week. We love you. Amen.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you next week. Bye.